Hi, and welcome to On the Shelves at ACPL. It is almost February, so we are going to be talking about books about love, but not just love in the romantic sense, but also love between friends. So whether you are celebrating with a significant other this year, or if you're going out with your girlfriends, I hope one of these books will be something you will enjoy reading this February. So let's get started. Our first book is The Authenticacy Project by Clare Pooley. In this book, we have an older gentleman named Julian who is an artist. He's lived a fairly rich life, but now he finds himself alone and lonely. He goes into a cafe every day that is run by Monica, and he writes in this green notebook. He leaves it one day in the cafe. She opens it and reads a little bit about his story, that he has left this, and he asks other people to add their stories. And so Monica adds her story. She leaves the notebook somewhere else. Someone else reads that story, both Julian's and Monica's, and adds his own, and so forth and so on. And the people that decide to take part of this project also come together in different ways. Julian starts teaching an art class at Monica's cafe, and they all get to know each other and form these rich, wonderful relationships. And then there's also a little bit of love in there. This is a great book, especially right now in a time of isolation, to think about how we can connect via writing as well as in seeing people in person. My next choice is Sweet Sorrow by David Nicholls. Charlie is 38 years old and he's getting ready to get married. But before he does, he feels he has to go back and talk to the first love of his life, his crush, the girl that he dated when he was 16. And that girl's name was Fran. When Charlie met Fran, he had to join the company, which at first he thinks, is this a spy thing? What is going on? But no, it was a theater company, and Fran was going to be Juliet that summer, and they were doing Shakespeare. And so to get close to Fran and to get to know her, he decides, even though he's not the world's best student, that he is going to join the company and be in the play. So the story starts with Charlie at 38. It goes back, it tells the whole story of his life at the time, which was not so great. He had a father who had major issues with alcohol, and he himself just was kind of adrift. He didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. And he really wants to find Fran as a 38-year-old to thank her, to make sure that there isn't still a spark there, I guess, maybe a little bit, which is kind of how we all feel about that first love, you know, what would have happened had we stayed together. But mostly he wanted to thank her for helping him through a really, really tough time in his life. So it starts with him at 38, goes back to his life at 16, and then at the end, we get some closure. We get to see what happened to Fran. So it is a very sweet book and a one that we all can relate to in thinking about those first loves and what would have happened had things ended differently. My next choice is Being Known by Robin Jones Gunn. This is the second in the Haven Makers series. This book is Christian fiction, and it is about a group of women who support each other through the good and the bad. In this book, Jessalyn has lost her mother and is grieving but does not feel comfortable grieving with her good friends. And then her friend Tess is also struggling because she is in a difficult relationship that she knew was going to be thorny from the start. So perhaps she is looking at this as, my friends are going to tell me, you knew this was going to be this way, and you still got into the relationship. And maybe Jessalyn is, I don't know, I do not know, because I have not read the book, why Jessalyn is struggling so much to share her grief. Perhaps because sometimes when you share it with people you love, you really lose yourself into the grief, and she's trying to kind of wall it off and keep herself under control. So this book is really about friendship and love and what it can mean to you when your best friends can hold you up and help you through the most difficult times. My next book is pretty much guaranteed to be a tearjerker. It is called The Last Letter, and it is by Rebecca Yarros. In this book, we have two men, Ryan and Beckett, who are soldiers. And when the book begins, Beckett gets a letter from Ryan's little sister, Ella. Ella asks her brother, who in your squadron isn't getting mail, doesn't have anybody, and he says, write to this guy. His call name is Chaos. So she writes to Chaos, and they develop a pen pal back and forth relationship. Ryan tells Beckett all about his little sister, the fact that how strong she is, that she is raising twins on her own, that she's just in her mid-20s. She got pregnant and married early in her life, but it didn't work out. And now she is a strong woman raising these twin a boy and a girl. So as the story goes on, there is a military action, and Ryan is killed. And so he writes a letter to Beckett and says, this is the letter that you write in case you don't come back. And obviously, if you're reading this, I didn't come back. I want you to go to Colorado, and I want you to take care of Ella for me. She is struggling. She says she's strong, and she is, but she needs help. And that's my dying wish for you to do. And so he goes. But when Ryan died, he stopped answering her letters. So she never knew his real name, and she believes that in the action that they saw, that this person, Chaos, that she had been writing must have also passed away. And so Beckett has to figure out how to tell her that he is Chaos, and he falls in love with her. And so there's going to be some conflict in this, but I think it's also going to be a very heartwarming and lovely story about how people who we're all broken in some way and how we can heal each other. And my last book today is All the Things I Should Have Known by Tiffany L. Warren. This is a little spicier than the others. We have three women, Hannah, Kimberly, and Twyla. They are in their 40s, and quite frankly, they're tired of the men that they have had in their lives that take and take and take. And they're looking for just something young and no strings attached. So they all pursue a younger man and find that things are a little more complicated than they expected. One pursues a writer and tries to convince him to be like her and all about the money and the power, and he is not quite so interested in that. Another one pursues one young man, but also finds that some flames are lit between an old boyfriend of hers. And the third meets a very sexy guy on Instagram, but realizes that he wants more than she does and that he is pretty jealous and controlling and perhaps maybe not the right guy for her. So all three of these women will discover what love really is and rely on each other to help them figure out what they really want and what they really need. So those are my choices for some great romantic fiction for the month of February. I hope you enjoyed learning about them, and if you would like to put any of them on hold, you can go to our catalog at alamancelibraries.org and put them on hold, or you can call any of our branches and we can do that for you. If you didn't find one you loved, but you are interested in finding a book on love, you can search in our catalog for love stories. For this, I searched for friendship love. So you can search for any of those kinds of things and find some great books that are either romances or are about friendship and love. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next time on the shelves.